friends, we have several clips to play in this video. Again, I mentioned yesterday, we didn't get a chance to uncover it to the extent that I wanted to, but yesterday, Hunter Biden was deposed in private by the House Oversight Committee and other Republican committees as part of the President Biden impeachment witch hunt, okay? Now, the transcript is supposed to be provided either today or tomorrow sometime, according to members of Congress. Of course, it's entirely possible that Republicans will sit on it, right? Which is what they've typically done with most transcripts, but I digress. And so the reaction, since we weren't able to see the actual event, is coming from those who were actually in the room. And based on the clips that I'm about to show you, it doesn't seem that it went well for Republicans, even though in this first clip, they really tried to assure us that it did.
Exit question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how damaging was today's testimony or deposition to Hunter Biden? Jason Smith, you go first. 1 to 10, 10 being the worst.
Well, I would say that they're pretty good at not recalling many things, so I would say an 8.
Okay, James Comer.
I'd say an 8.
Okay, Jim Jordan.
Yeah, Sean, I think it was very good for us. As I said, I think we got a lot of information that we can use if, in fact, we have a public hearing, as Chairman Comer is talking about.
Exit.
So you have James Comer, Jim Jordan, and Jason Smith. Comer is the head of the Republican Oversight Committee. Jordan is the head of the Judiciary Committee, and Jason Smith there is the head of the House Ways and Means Committee. Now, we know they're lying for a few reasons, but not the least of which is this was pointed out by people who were actually in the room at the time, which is Chairman Smith, Jason Smith, again, the head of the Ways and Means Committee. He wasn't even in the room for any part of the 6-hour deposition. Why wouldn't you be there if you had such confidence in this particular hearing and in the outcome of it? And why would you be in a position to know on a scale of 1 to 10 how well it went if you weren't even in the damn room? And then, according to, again, other people in the room, very telling that James Comer left early, never asked any questions. So again, this apparently wasn't that big of a deal to James Comer either, which is kind of surprising. But if that's not enough, I'll refer you here to Andy Biggs. Andy Biggs is one of the most far-right Republicans in the Republican Party. He certainly wants any sort of evidence he could cobble together to try to impeach the president. This is how he describes Hunter Biden's deposition.
So I think when the transcript comes out, it's going to read well for him because they did a great job prepping for a read. But that's
interesting.
But the reality is, yeah. But when you get down to it and you start parsing the words, you start realizing, oh yeah, that's very interesting.
Well, so the best he can say is, well, when you start parsing the words, well, yeah, it gets interesting. But even Andy Biggs is admitting, actually, when the transcript comes out, it's going to read very, very well for Hunter Biden because Hunter Biden came prepared. That doesn't really sound like an 8 out of 10 situation to me, which might be the reason why Jim Jordan, who was presumably, based on the reports, the only one who was there from start to finish, why he was so cagey answering Sean Hannity's question. Comer and Smith, who either weren't there at all or left early and didn't ask any questions, they're like, oh yeah, 8 out of 10. It's an 8 out of 10, definitely. And Jim Jordan's like, I mean, I think that maybe something, maybe it could be like good, maybe. But it's gotten so bad that one of the few allies that right-wing media has, or in right-wing media to the Republican Party left with respect to the impeachment effort against President Biden, Miranda Devine from the New York Post, this is how she's spinning things in the aftermath and the preliminary reporting of the Hunter Biden deposition. This is what she has to say.
So that doesn't wash. I mean, I think that, people asking for the smoking gun from James Comer are just being unrealistic or being deliberately trying to discredit his inquiry because, of course, you're not going to find a check made out by Zlochevsky or Vladimir Putin or somebody in Ukraine to Joe Biden. That's not how these things work.
Then what's your evidence, lady? What's your evidence? You see how they move the goalpost? They're like, listen, it's not only should you not expect a smoking gun, it's actually irrational. It's unreasonable. You're just against the inquiry from the beginning. You're right. I'm against inquiries in which there is no evidence, no compelling evidence for the claims that are being made, certainly when it involves impeaching and removing the sitting president of the United States. And I wonder if Miranda Devine would have ever held that standard for the impeachments against Donald Trump when he was president. No, of course not. According to her, and according to the few people who are willing to proudly defend this impeachment inquiry, the idea of evidence is just absurd, right? We should just be able to impeach somebody based on mere allegation, except not Republicans. That doesn't work for Republicans. Like you actually need, not only do you need evidence, you need like a signed confession in blood that's videotaped. You also have to prove that it wasn't made under duress, because those sorts of confessions don't work. The standard shifts, but you see how they're moving the goalpost in order to soften the blow, to make it more appetizing to those who want President Biden to be impeached, right? They're trying to soften the blow and temper expectations. It's not going to work. They probably don't have the votes to impeach the president, and they certainly won't be able to convict him in the Senate because it requires a 2/3 majority. But that's pretty shameless for Miranda Devine, pretty pathetic, and you should mock her if you haven't had the chance to do so. But again, it's so bad that even an increasing number of Fox News hosts are just fed up with this clown show, this particular crusade of the Republican Party, which they've spent all their political capital on since they took the majority in 2023.
Congressman, do you think maybe the American public is getting a little tired of this because they can't understand it? It's complicated. They don't know all the names and places and faces. And you haven't proved the basic point yet that President Biden was directly involved. Is the public getting tired of it?
Well, large-scale international money fraud schemes are by their very nature complicated, but I think the American public is tired of a two-tier justice system and somebody being treated completely different, particularly when they see what's going on with President Trump at this point in time. And I mean, we have to take these facts where they go. You have to deal with it. I mean, there is no doubt by anybody with two eyes and two ears that Hunter Biden was selling access to President Biden and at that time Vice President Biden. The only question is continue. If you think a family as close as this family was, this is the one place where they build absolute firewalls, and that just simply belies the truth.
Well, if it belies the truth, you should be able to produce evidence for it, right? If it belies the truth, you should be able to prove your claim. You're assuming that it belies truth. You're demanding that we take it at face value that it belies truth. And when it comes time for you to produce evidence of your claim, you're empty-handed time and time again, which is why Varney asked the damn question in the first place. But folks, it goes beyond that. Again, we talked about this before, but again, it's apparently increasing, and it's only been made worse apparently after the closed-door deposition. But even James Comer's Republican colleagues are not happy with the trajectory of this impeachment inquiry.
You'd think this committee might walk away, but Chairman Comer made it clear that his self-described smoke but no fire yet investigation, he said, well, we heard some contradictory things in Hunter Biden's testimony that need further review, suggesting we're just going to kind of keep this ball in the air with insinuations and suggestions, but no evidence that there was wrongdoing here. Is that the goal here, just to keep this alive through the election?
That is, Willie, a typical Comerian tactic to continue to muddy the waters and lob allegations across cable news and conservative media that have been proven unsubstantiated time and time again. I imagine we are going to continue to see that, but perhaps to a lesser extent. I mean, even Fox News has quieted on several fronts of covering some of the accusations Comer's been making, and he has been facing criticism from his colleagues who have not been happy with his media process-centric approach, where he has put forward, again, this contextless, cherry-picked evidence, gone and spoken about it, and then the evidence has, when you've looked into it a little bit further, fallen quite flat. But
yeah, so again, I think Comer realizes that the case isn't here. I think Jim Jordan realizes it too. I think they all realize it. The question is, how much juice can they extract from this particular fruit, right?